The little girl was waiting for her father to buy balloons when she suddenly discovered a toy on the ground, a magic wand that had been thrown away by someone else. The little girl let go of her father's hand and slowly walked towards it. By the time her father discovered her, the little girl had disappeared. The vendor was staring at the scene before him with a mysterious look in his eyes. On January 5, 2010, right before the big traditional festival for children in Spain, many families brought their children to participate in the festival. Although it was raining, it did not affect the bustling atmosphere of everyone. Little Amaya saw other children holding balloons, so she asked her father to buy them, so her mother stayed to save her spot. Her father took her to buy balloons. Unexpectedly, that was the last time they saw Amaya. Amaya's father searched in the crowd for a long time and finally found a back that looked very similar to Amaya. But when he caught up, he realized that he had mistaken the person. Amaya's mother received Amaya's favorite rabbit mask on the ground. She immediately realized that Amaya had been kidnapped. Amaya's disappearance caused a huge stir in public opinion. The police held a press conference calling for information from the public. At the same time, they announced that the only clue they had was surveillance footage of an unidentified man holding Amaya's hand and leading her away from the square. A female reporter named Miran was very concerned about this case. She asked the editor-in-chief to let her join the investigation, but because she was new to the job and had no experience, she was harshly refused. Fortunately, her teacher saw through her determination, so he gave her all the documents that had been arranged for the case. The person in charge of investigating the case was a second-class female inspector of the Malaga Police Department named Belen. Belen was someone Miran was extremely familiar with. Miran went to the police department with her teacher. When she was almost there, she suddenly stopped. She clutched her shirt as if she was remembering something sad. Belen checked the entire square and found Amaya's yellow raincoat in a hallway. This proved that someone had changed Amaya. Belen entered the data to investigate the balloon seller, the last person to contact Amaya. Then she posted wanted posters everywhere. Then she was about to drink coffee to wake up when Miran came looking for her. As soon as she saw Miran, Belen paused for a moment. Belen coldly said that her case had not made any progress. Then Belen left. Since Amaya's disappearance, her mother has been hugging her photo and crying day and night. Amaya's father was also extremely hurt and helpless. The police came to the house many times to collect evidence, but the case still did not progress. The two could only ask the media for help. They choked up and begged the public for help. They cried and begged the kidnapper not to hurt Amaya. To clarify the matter, Miran investigated the background of Amaya's parents. Amaya's father, John, was a cartoonist. Amaya's mother, Anna, was an obstetrician. The stern-looking man standing next to them was Luke, the owner of a freight company. Luke was also a close friend of their family. After the reporters left, Miran found Anna crying in the garage. At first, when Anna learned that Miran was a journalist, she did not want to say anything. But when Anna saw Miran's sincere and determined eyes, she finally decided to leave her contact information. Belen led her subordinates back to the scene at the square. But because the festival was so crowded that day, the camera could not capture any more images of Amaya. The two went to the apartment where the yellow raincoat was found. They speculated that the kidnapper had thrown the raincoat away and disguised Amaya to make it easier to escape. But why didn't he throw it in the trash but recklessly threw it into the apartment? Maybe he was in such a hurry that he didn't have time to think. This showed that the kidnapping was a spontaneous act. The old lady who lived in the building provided an important clue. Due to illness, she couldn't go out to attend the festival and could only look out the window to join in the fun. She saw two people standing downstairs with Amaya, but because it was raining and visibility was limited, she couldn't see the man's face clearly. Belen's subordinates informed them that they had investigated the information of the balloon seller. This person had been arrested for intentional infliction of serious injury and had been in prison for 2 years. He also refused to stay in prison. After Amaya went missing, he immediately fled. He justified that he now had a family and children. He had reformed. He ran away because he was afraid of trouble. Because there was no solid evidence, Belen had no choice but to give a few warnings and leave. Volunteers posted notices of their whereabouts all over the city. At this time, Luke and Amaya's family also arrived at the scene. Miran originally intended to approach them to investigate, but when Luke learned that Miran was a reporter, he immediately became angry. He chased her away and threatened to sue the newspaper. After Miran was pushed by Luke, she remembered the past. She gasped for breath to calm her legs. Miran's stubbornness was not without reason. Miran had been given alcohol at a party. She then fell into a coma and was dragged to the beach. Although she only remembered it briefly, the painful memories were still deep. The person who investigated the case back then was Belen. Many years had passed, but the culprit had not been caught. Miran was worried that the kidnapped Amaya would suffer what she had experienced. That was why Miran was determined to pursue the case to the end. Many days passed without any miracle. hysterical. Miran's parents lost all hope. They and the volunteers organized a memorial ceremony for Amaya, right in the square. Belen stood far away and watched silently. At this time, Belen's subordinates received information that Luke had a criminal record for molesting a girl. It turned out that the perpetrator might be hiding among the victim's family's close friends. Not long after, Luke was summoned by the police. Luke insisted that he considered Amaya as a relative and that he could not do such a thing. But Amaya's parents no longer believed Luke. They shouted for him to hand over their daughter. Otherwise, they would ask the police to intervene. The two of them rushed in and beat him. According to Luke's statement, on the day Amaya went missing, he and his family attended a festival. It rained at 6:30 p.m. He left for about 20 minutes to buy an umbrella at a nearby store. Amaya disappeared at 6:45 p.m. The place where Amaya disappeared was only about 230 meters away from where Luke was standing. Even though it was a crowded day, it would have taken Luke less than 10 minutes to reach Amaya and kidnap her. But he returned to his family at 7 o'clock in the evening. How could he hide a living child in such a short time? Considering that he owned a shipping company, it was highly likely that Amaya was hidden in one of his trucks. Belen applied for a search warrant to her superiors. They sealed off Luke's entire company for investigation. Not even the iron bars, the cracks in the sofa, or even a hair on the floor were missed. But after half a busy day, they still couldn't find any trace of Amaya. Even the sniffer dogs couldn't detect Amaya's scent. At this moment, the police were following the balloon seller and discovered something suspicious. Belen immediately received the news and rushed to the scene. When they saw him secretly loading a large wooden box into the trunk of his car, the police immediately took action to arrest him. They suspected that Amaya might be hidden inside, but when Belen opened the box, she was shocked to see a giant golden python inside. They took the balloon seller to the station for questioning and found out that he had recently been smuggling animals. He had absolutely nothing to do with Amaya's case. At this moment, Belen's subordinates discovered a new clue. Luke had recently paid off his entire home loan. He even bought a yacht. Meanwhile, Luke's wife had never worked and her income from the transportation company couldn't cover such huge expenses. So where did that money come from? Belen's subordinates also mentioned that Luke's wife had an old apartment that had been empty for a long time. Maybe there would be answers there. Miran's emotional wounds had not yet healed. She had to see a psychologist every day for therapy. Her mother called to advise her to go home and not to cling to the case any longer. But Miran was always worried about Amaya. Fortunately, thanks to the teacher's connections, Miran was introduced to a retired police officer who had investigated Luke's crimes. The two immediately drove to the meeting place. As they passed the beach, Miran suddenly remembered the terrible experience of that night, but she still tried to stay calm. She and the teacher walked into a bar. The police officer said he was retired. In fact, he had been fired. He was rude, used profanity, and even insulted the victims. He thought they deserved it. They didn't deserve pity. Miran was so angry that she almost beat him up. Luckily, the teacher intervened and they avoided a conflict. Amaya's parents were so heartbroken over losing her that they gradually fell into a deadlock. Conflicts began to arise. Anna blamed John for not taking good care of their child. John blamed Anna for only caring about work all day and not caring about her family. She didn't even know what her daughter liked to eat. The couple's relationship gradually cracked. From the collected documents, Miran discovered that Luke committed the crime when he was 19 years old. The victim was only 4 years younger than him. What surprised people was that the victim that year was now Luke's wife. Miran suspected that there was something more, so she wanted to find Luke's wife to ask for clarification. But in their family, there was only Luke's son, David. David said exactly like Luke that they always considered Amaya's family as relatives. But when Miran asked Luke if there were any other sources of money, David began to look nervous. At the same time, the police contacted Luke's wife. They went to the old apartment together. Due to the impact of the economic crisis in recent years, the apartment had not been sold, but the condition of preservation was still good. It did not look too old. However, Belen felt that this place had traces of use. Sure enough, in a small room, Belen found a camera on the screen with Luke's voice. Luke asked David to do whatever he wanted with the victims. In several other rooms, they also found many CD boxes. This proved that there were more victims than they had imagined. Luke's wife immediately called David and asked what he and Luke had done. David hung up in panic. Miran tried to calm David down, but he lost control. He rushed to the balcony and jumped down. By the time Miran ran back to see, David was motionless and no longer breathing. Although Miran witnessed the whole thing, she still didn't understand what had just happened. Miran wanted to find Belen to ask her, but she refused to reveal anything. That made Miran very disappointed. 2 years ago, when Miran was assaulted, the police were also indifferent. The fear that Amaya would meet the same fate as her made Miran unable to sit still. At this moment, the teacher appeared and gave her an important clue. It was evidence that Luke had illegally filmed obscene videos and sold them everywhere. Belen suspected that this was related to Amaya, but her subordinates had obtained a video recording showing that on the day Amaya went missing, Luke was buying an umbrella in a store. He had a clear alibi. However, Marin remembered that there was a strange slide symbol on Luke's laptop at home. Combined with Luke's previous actions, Miran felt that this symbol might be related to the case. Miran also remembered that she had read an article about Luke, but her teacher did not agree to pursue this line of investigation because he felt that the force behind it was too dark and not something ordinary people like them could touch. John was still at home drawing comics inspired by Amaya. John received a call from the police that there was not enough evidence, so Luke was about to be released. At the same time, there were no other suspects in the case. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, 6 years had passed. Anna had never forgotten her daughter. Coincidentally, today was Amaya's birthday. At that time, Miran at the hotel received an envelope. When Miran read the content inside, she immediately called Belen and contacted Anna. The letter said that she asked Miran to deliver this item to Amaya's biological parents. Inside was a videotape. Amaya's parents cried while watching it because they immediately recognized that it was Amaya who had been missing for 6 years. The video only lasted for 1 minute, then the screen turned to white snow. They kept replaying it to see every detail of their daughter's face. The kidnapper had never contacted or demanded ransom for the past 6 years, but now he suddenly sent the video. It was unclear whether it was a challenge or some other intention. Even the police could not explain this. Since Amaya's disappearance, Anna and her husband were like strangers. The once happy family was now broken. Anna still persisted in searching for Amaya. When she learned that her daughter was alive, she became even more determined. As for John, he had a new family, so he no longer cared about the case. Some changed, some continued to move forward. Miran had been following Amaya all these years. The walls in Miran's house were covered with information related to Amaya's case. She had meticulously arranged each clue. She stared at it day and night. Miran wondered if Amaya's disappearance was related to the slide symbol. The police placed all their hopes on the tape. Based on the recording, they found that the camera used was a Samyang model of 1985. Some websites still sell used cameras like this, but the amount of data was too large, and the lack of manpower meant that the investigation would take many months. Belen did not understand why the kidnapper would send the video after 6 years and on Amaya's birthday. Before she could think it over, a phone call interrupted her train of thought. A nearby store had a surveillance camera that had captured the image of the sender of the letter. At that moment, Miran was standing looking at the store across from the newspaper office. She thought for a moment and decided to start the investigation from the store's surveillance camera because there is no free lunch in this world. When Miran learned that she was a reporter, the store owner asked her to advertise the store in the newspaper for 3 months and put it on the front page. Only then did he agree to provide the video footage. Unfortunately, the image was so blurry that she could only vaguely see a person wearing a hat. She couldn't even tell the gender of the person. Miran immediately thought of the nearby streets that might also have surveillance cameras. She hurriedly went there to check. When Miran arrived, she discovered that Belen was also investigating in the area, but the two still didn't get any useful information, so they reached an agreement. Belen hoped that Miran would use the press to help more people know about case. Miran asked for exclusive coverage after finding the culprit. At this time, John met Anna and advised her not to make the video public because it would disrupt his current peaceful life. But Anna refused because after Amaya went missing, she had almost completely collapsed. Her mind was stuck on that fateful day 6 years ago. She hated the kidnapper who took everything from her daughter. Anna hated John even more because after their divorce, John calmly created comics about Amaya as a way to exploit her pain. Because of their different opinions, the two argued fiercely and then left in anger. The hotel was preparing to release the video so that tens of thousands of people could see it and find more clues. The police were not satisfied. The superiors pressured Belen to stop this. Belen had been holding back for too long, so now she couldn't hold it in anymore and exploded in anger. For the past 6 years, those people had never cared about Amaya's life or death. The police force was short of staff, but the superiors ignored it. Now Belen just wanted to find Amaya. Even if she had to resign, she would accept it. The press held a celebration party. Thanks to Miran's efforts, the number of readers skyrocketed. She was very happy and opened a glass of wine with the teacher to chat. While the teacher went out to answer the phone, Miran turned around and saw a few men pointing at her. At that moment, the feeling of oppression that she had almost forgotten came flooding back. She couldn't stand that disgusting look. She quickly put on her shirt and left the bar. Even though she got home, her mood didn't improve. Her mind was filled with memories of the time she was abused. The next morning, Miran went to the counseling center again and confided in her secret pain. That year, she attended a beach party and drank drank a glass of wine that someone else gave her. Then she quickly lost consciousness. She hated harming herself, but fortunately, because of the effects of the drug, her memory of what happened that day was quite vague. The entire police force was mobilized to analyze every item in the video. Everything from the dollhouse next to Amaya to the clothes were thoroughly checked, but everything was too common to yield any concrete clues. Belen felt discouraged. Just as she was about to give up hope, the police received a call from a kind-hearted citizen. He said that a few months ago, he had seen someone posting an ad for a Samyang camcorder identical to the one in the video. The man, James, was British and had no criminal record in Spain. But in 1980, James attempted to corner a girl. In 1990, James reoffended and was arrested. In 2000, James moved to Spain. Belen contacted Miran to meet the suspect. James is currently running a tattoo shop on the side of the road. Strangely, James was not surprised at all when the police came looking for him, as if he had predicted this before leaving. James even looked at Miran with a very deep gaze. During the interrogation, James appeared extremely calm because he had never been to the festival scene that day. Before the police arrived, James had seen the article about Amaya, plus his criminal record and possession of a camera similar to the one in the video, so he guessed that he would be suspected. On the morning of April 5th at 7 o'clock, which was also the time Miran received the letter, James and his girlfriend were sleeping at home. James had a solid alibi. Belen went to the trailer where James lived, but he was very cunning. James had poured bleach all over the place, so they couldn't find any suspicious traces. The police had to let James go. As soon as James left the police station, Miran followed him. He recognized her as a reporter who reported on the Amaya case, so he frankly admitted that he had changed since 2010. But James still secretly watched Luke's videos from time to time. The website where Luke posted the videos had a slider icon. James had also seen Miran's clips on that site. It cost a lot of money to access it because the site had strict restrictions on users. James now had a list of user accounts, including the site's administrators. If Miran wanted to know, she would have to give him 10,000 euros. Miran had thought that if she overcame her fear, she could forget everything. Now, Miran realized that they had saved the videos. It was like violating her all over again. When will this really end? After Miran calmed down, she called her teacher to ask him to investigate the website with the slide icon. The teacher soon brought the news. After Luke went to prison in 2010, the website was also shut down. There were rumors that behind this website was a dark force that was not something ordinary people like them could touch. To find out the truth, Miran gave money to James. He happily kept his word. But James also asked for an additional condition. He had to take some photos of Miran. Although he did not know what his intentions were, at this point she had no way back. Miran forced herself to endure the feeling of disgust and tried to sit still in her chair to complete James's request. Finally, Miran got the list of users. Then Miran went to see Luke, who was imprisoned nearby, and asked him to point out who on the list was the administrator of the website. Over the years, Miran wrote many articles exposing Luke's crimes, making him a person condemned by society. This made Luke's family no longer trust him, so he always considered Miran an enemy. Therefore, he could not provide her with any clues. However, Luke still warned Miran not to try to investigate the truth behind it. Then 3 more years passed. It had been exactly 9 years since Amaya went missing. Suddenly, Miran received an anonymous message telling her to go to a location to get a videotape based on the image of the building provided. Miran found the tape in the trash. Amaya's parents also received the notice, and they immediately went there. After 3 years, they finally saw their daughter again. They were happy that she was still alive, but then their eyes suddenly froze when they saw the words goodbye on the envelope. They understood that this could be the kidnapper's last videotape. Their hearts were cut by knives. Anna was afraid that saying goodbye meant that the kidnapper was about to attack Amaya. Anna and John held a press conference to release the video. At the same time, they sent a message to the kidnapper that even if he didn't return Amaya, or even if they would never see her again in this life, they only hoped that he would be lenient and not hurt her. This was the most sincere voice of parents. This time, the person who delivered the video was even more cautious. The camera didn't capture the suspect. There were no traces on the envelope. The message was sent through a restaurant's Wi-Fi. It could be said that the murderer left no clues at all. Fortunately, after carefully reviewing the video, Belen discovered something new. She realized that in the 2019 video, the dollhouse next to Amaya had a new toy. This could very well be an important clue. Belen immediately led her subordinates to search everywhere. After many hours in a toy store, they finally learned that one of the items in the dollhouse was very special. Only the father of the store owner could have made it. But the buyer was not a regular customer. The old man was so old that he could not remember who the buyer looked like. Case was deadlocked again. They had just stepped out of the store when Belen's subordinate received a call informing them that the bodies of James and another man were found in his car. The killer was too cruel. He even set fire fire to the bodies to destroy the evidence. At the same time, Mirren compares two tapes and found that the 2019 tape was much clearer than the 2016 tape. She guessed that it was probably because the cameraman had changed the investment of the Samyang camera, and the camera repair shop with the right investment was her teacher's shop. Mirren went to ask the shop owner and confirmed that a few months ago, someone came to replace the investment in Samyang cameras. She immediately revealed her identity as a reporter, hoping to get more information, but the shop owner did not want to get involved with press, so he kicked her out. Mirren did not give up but secretly followed the shop owner back to repair and stole the customer list. Thanks to that, Mirren identified a woman named Alice who was going to that address. Unexpectedly, she was stopped by the police. It turned out that the second body found with James was the one who had just been released from prison, and in his car there was also a photo of Mirren, so she immediately became a suspect. At the same time, in a village in Spain, a woman opened the door of the attic room and called her daughter and said that they had to leave, and the dollhouse in the room was exactly the same model that appeared in the video. Time went back to 2010. Obstetrician Anna had a patient named Alice. Due to her special condition, even if Alice spent all her savings, she still could not get pregnant. On January 5th, before the festival night, when every house was filled with joy, Alice could only silently watch other people's children with a heart full of sorrow. When she learned that Dr. Anna also had a lovely daughter, Alice immediately became insanely jealous. The thought gradually formed in Alice's mind that it was because of Anna that she could not have children. That night, it rained heavily. Alice saw Amaya walking alone and she had the idea of kidnapping her. Alice approached Amaya and pretended to be Anna's friend, then held her hand and led her away from the crowd. To avoid being discovered, Alice took off Amaya's raincoat and told her husband to throw it into a nearby apartment. Then Alice put her husband's hat on Amaya's head. The old lady upstairs saw the whole thing. Alice quickly picked up Amaya to avoid Anna and her husband's pursuit. Alice and her husband left the scene calmly. They took Amaya to a small house in the countryside and planned to raise her as their own daughter. Alice's husband had tried to persuade her, but she insisted that Amaya was her daughter. Seeing that she had completely lost her mind, he was helpless. Alice kept emphasizing that Amaya had accepted her. Suddenly, there was a noise outside. Cars slowly drove up. Alice quickly picked up Amaya, covered her mouth, and hid to the side. The man was a bank employee who came to remind Alice's husband about the unpaid mortgage. Alice's husband had just led the man into the house when he was worried that Amaya would make noise upstairs. Although Alice's husband assured her that they would pay the debt in the next few days, the man still refused to leave and continued to yell. Soon Amaya burst into tears. The man knew very well that Alice had no children. Alice was forced to cover Amaya's mouth with a pillow, causing her to suffocate and faint. In order to take care of Amaya, Alice's husband repainted the entire room and put up new wallpaper. Alice hoped that Amaya would accept her, but Amaya only felt scared when she saw her biological parents on TV. Amaya ran over and called out loudly for her mother. Alice immediately unplugged the power cord and comforted Amaya that she was your mother. From then on, Alice believed that she could not let anyone else see Amaya and could not let Amaya come into contact with the outside world. Alice gave Amaya a new name, Julia, even though Amaya did not like it. Alice also trained Amaya that whenever someone passed by the window, she had to immediately go back into the room, absolutely not to be discovered. Then they installed a camera in the room to conveniently monitor Amaya's every move, but that could not last forever. Amaya would grow up. Alice wanted her husband to take their whole family out of Spain, but they were poor, so moving abroad was impossible. A year passed. Alice's husband grew lavender to earn some income. Amaya gradually got used to life here and lived in harmony with Alice. Seeing Amaya smiling brightly, Alice's husband was also happy from the bottom of his heart. But every night, Alice sat in front of the computer and watched the news about Anna over and over again. It wasn't because she had a guilty conscience, but because she was afraid that her current happiness would be ruined one day. In no time, 5 years had passed. Amaya forgot her real name, and she considered Alice her biological mother. Alice didn't let Amaya have contact with the outside world. Alice worked as a teacher to teach Amaya how to read and write. But time passed, and Amaya began to be curious about the outside world. Alice lied that there were only bad people outside, causing Amaya to give up her desire to leave. In her free time, Amaya helped her father with his work. She never left this countryside. The two of them were her whole world. One day, when Alice was watching the news, she finally felt a little guilty. Alice told her husband to send the tape to the media and asked journalist Mirren to tell everyone that Amaya was doing well. But they didn't expect that his actions were recorded by the camera. In the following days, he lived in fear. Fortunately, the image was too blurry for the police to track them down. The case was not further investigated. That day was Amaya's birthday. The two of them prepared a birthday cake in a music player as a gift. Amaya was very happy and put on headphones and went out to the yard to listen to music. Not long after, a car drove up. Alice panicked and ran out to pull Amaya back into the house. But they were still seen by that man. It was the bank employee from back then. Out of politeness, he didn't ask any more questions. But as soon as he turned around, he saw the birthday candle on the ground. The man realized something was wrong. He made an excuse to leave, but Alice stopped him right in front of the door and shot him dead on the spot. She was afraid that if she let him escape, their good life would collapse. So Alice and her husband burned all the evidence. She also pleaded that she was just doing what a mother should do. The peaceful days did not last long. The police came to investigate the man's disappearance. Alice immediately took Amaya to the attic, leaving her husband alone to face it. He lied that the man only came to ask about the debt and then left immediately. The police did not find anything unusual, so they ignored it. In 2019, Alice noticed that the video signal was distorted, so she offered to fix the camera. But by then, their family was deep in debt. Even the house was about to be repossessed by the bank. Alice could not accept that. She went crazy and screamed at her husband to quickly pay the debt or she would take Amaya and leave. In fact, Alice's husband had also thought about his past mistakes, and he understood that it was too late to regret now. After much torment, he decided to go to the police station to confess, but as soon as he crossed the street, he was hit by a car and fell to the ground. Alice was completely devastated when she heard the news. Alice had never worked before, so she didn't know how to support her and Amaya. Fortunately, the insurance company paid all the family's debts. At least Alice and Amaya weren't evicted. Alice decided to sell the house to get money to take Amaya away from here. Before Alice left, she sent the second tape to Miran. Then Alice went home and hugged Amaya. They planned for the final harvest. Miran was so focused on the Amaya case and had suspected Luke that the police suspected her of killing James and Luke because she was upset that they were not tried. But because they had no evidence and Miran denied it completely, the police had to release her. Belen thought about how Luke had just been released from prison a few months ago and then suddenly got involved with James. It was unclear how the two of them knew each other. Were they related to the website with the slide icon? Meanwhile, news of the case was leaked. Anna and her husband were shocked when they learned that James and Luke had died, but they had no idea whether Miran was involved or not. The front gate of the newspaper office was packed with reporters wanting to get news from Miran. Miran's car was still parked at the newspaper office, but she didn't want to show up, so Miran had to ask her teacher to drive her. As soon as she got in the car, the teacher discovered a camera under the seat. The photo inside was the one that had been leaked. Could Miran really be involved in the deaths of James and Luke? The teacher didn't ask Miran about it. He just told her to be very careful. Miran followed the clues to the village in the deep green mountains and went to Alice's house. When Amaya saw the car passing by, she immediately ran into the house and hugged the little dog tightly, not daring to say anything. Miran used the excuse that she needed to interview the countryside to approach them. Alice recognized who Miran was, so she firmly refused. When Miran left, she saw a baby stroller in the yard and became suspicious. Alice was in the room quietly observing Miran's attitude. Alice coaxed Miran into the house. As soon as Miran sat down, she noticed the Samyang camera in the living room. Alice quickly stood up and said she would make tea, and at the same time she took a knife from the kitchen. But she really didn't have the courage to kill another person. She thought for a while and then hid the knife again. Miran tried to find a way to start a conversation, but Alice changed the subject to her husband and burst into tears. So Miran didn't dare to ask further. However, Miran noticed that the hair tie on Alice's head was very familiar. When Miran returned, she checked the tape again and found that Amaya had used the same type of hair tie. Miran was even more certain that Amaya was hidden in this house. Miran immediately called Belen to inform her, then she hid nearby to observe. Alice knew that they couldn't stay in this place any longer, so she decided to immediately take Amaya and escape. At night, Miran saw the two people driving away, so she followed them. Miran drove and called Belen while driving. At that time, Alice saw Miran's car through the rearview mirror. She immediately went crazy and screamed that she would never let anyone separate her and Amaya. Then Alice stepped on the gas and accelerated. Even though Amaya was extremely scared, Alice didn't intend to stop either. She stepped on the gas and drove straight down the mountainside. Amaya was only slightly injured, so she crawled out of the car and rushed to hug the dying Alice. Miran also arrived in time, but Amaya refused to listen to the explanation. Amaya held the shotgun in the car and pointed it straight at Miran, but in the end, Amaya couldn't pull the trigger because she was just a child. Miran easily snatched the gun. When it was morning, the police arrived and sealed off the scene. Alice's body was put in a body bag. She still didn't close her eyes until the last minute. No one knew what she was thinking at that time. Belen's subordinates found the camera in Miran's car, but the memory card had been taken by her teacher. The police found no evidence to charge her. When Amaya's parents received the news, they immediately went to the police station. Finally, they were able to see the daughter they they missed every night. Unfortunately, after 9 years of separation, Amaya's memories of them have become vague. She doesn't believe they are her biological parents. This pain for any family is something that no amount of compensation can compensate. Miran writes down the entire 7-year journey in a book. She prepares to start a new life. But then she receives a letter. Inside is a photo of a strange little girl. It seems that things are not over yet. The movie ends here. Thank you for watching. Goodbye and see you again.